Welcome everybody to this session on Manage Patron Services Page Circulation Desk. This is part of the ALMA 2024 Roadmap Series. I am Yoel Kortic, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris, and we're joined also by Mr. Baruch Picard from ALMA Product Management. Baruch, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us.
Hi.
Before we jump into the session, a little background. I'm going to switch browsers here. So this is part of the ALMA 2024 Roadmap webinar series. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are familiar with this page because we know many of the people registered from here. So I'm going to send out that link anyway to everybody. Those of you watching this via YouTube will see a link to this page in the video description on YouTube. So we're now well into this series. We started back in February. I'm not going to go through each session here, but we started back in February. This page here has a link to the accompanying resources of each session, as well as a link to the YouTube video. So today we're down in July 17th, the new Managed Patron Services page circulation desk. You've got a link here to an accompanying PowerPoint. We will show just a very brief part of this PowerPoint. We don't want to bore everyone flipping through 91 slides. The presentation is a whopping 91 slides, so we don't want to just flip through that. We're going to show everything live. After the session, let's say by tomorrow, because we get another session later today, there will be a link here to the YouTube video like there is, as you see, for all of the other sessions. While we're here, I'll put in a plug for next week. Next week, July 24th, we've got a session relevant. I'm putting here that this is relevant for the network zone administrators. That's next week's session. Consortia Central Configuration Dashboard for distributing shared configuration across members. That's next week. I'm just reminding everybody, and note that the session next week is relevant for network zone administrators and member institutions of a network zone. That session next week is part of both the ALMA 2024 Roadmap webinar series as well as our other ongoing series. We've got a lot of series going on. The ALMA Network Zone Consortia webinar series. By the way, in September, we're beginning another Analytics Become an Expert series. So we got a lot going on. Anyway, then Wednesday, September 4th, we're taking a little break in August. A lot of people are out. We did have something scheduled, and there just wasn't a lot of, I don't want to say interest. Let's say there wasn't a lot of availability. So on Wednesday, Wednesday, September 4th, we've got the new all title search, another nice new feature, so stay tuned for that. And then authority records matching and linking. We've already begun planning the ALMA 2025 Roadmap webinar series. And in addition to these pages with the webinar series and other methods, everything is always on the Ex Libris Education webinars page. You can get to this very easily via any kind of a Google search. If you just put in education, webinars, Ex Libris, you will get there. First shot even. Depending on your browser history, it might be the second shot, but you will get it. So you can get everything here as well, both the recordings as well as registering for future sessions. If I was to type here ALMA 2024 roadmap, for example, I've got everything from the ALMA 2024 Roadmap webinar series, and if I want to see only those which have passed so I can see the recordings, I can filter here by on demand, and now I've got all the past ones, and I can click Watch Now to see the recording. So let's now jump into our scheduled program here, the new Managed Patron Services Circulation Desk. Baruch, before I jump in, would you like to take the screen and give any introductory comments?
Yes, well, real quick, I won't take the screen,
All
but
right, you don't want screen? Okay, go right ahead
I don't
then.
need it. So this session marks the completion of a long-term project, around 2.5 years, working on the circulation desk, new UI. This was involving the community, who was thinking about what's better and what should be out and should be in. We hope you all adopt it as early as you get it. And thank you, Yoel, for this great webinar, and we're looking forward to practice it with you.
All right, fantastic. You don't have to thank me. I'm delighted to show it. All right, so let's jump in here. So first of all, let's talk about availability. We've completely redesigned, as it states here, the capabilities, the setup, the way the screen appears, the way to navigate. You'll see that. Availability. In May, it became available as a sneak preview for the UX focus group, the user experience focus group. August, which is just a few days away, August release, it'll be available for early access. That means users can opt in. And then November, it's general availability. That means everyone will have it. I've got links here to a little more information about the roadmap related information. I'm not going to go in there now. I want to utilize our time to show the actual features, but you've got links here so you can take a look at that on your own. So let's jump right in. I'm going to leave the PowerPoint and we may come back later and come into Alma. So I'm in Alma. I'm in a standard July release. There are a few more features in August that I don't have here. However, I'm in July release, and July release is something, of course, you all have. So I'm not in some kind of a demo environment that you aren't familiar with or anything, or a development environment. As you can see here, it says July 2024 release. So there's two ways to access the new managed patron services. One is via the fulfillment managed patron services, same way as it was before. Put in the user. Usually it would be scanning in a barcode, and we get to the new managed patron services page. The other way to access this page, also which already existed, is from the user's user card. It's still called a user card. So if I were to retrieve a user here and again go into that managed patron services, so I can do that here from the managed fulfillment activities. Both methods bring us to the managed patron services page. So again, either we can come from fulfillment, managed patron services, scan the patron, and that will bring us in. Same method as was previous. I'm just pointing it out in any case. Or if we're viewing the user details here, we can come in through the manage fulfillment activities. So that's accessing the manage patron services page. Now that we're in here, let's take a look at what we've got. We're going to focus on the left part here. When I say the left part, now we have the main part of the page here where my mouse is moving, and this is the navigation pane. At different stages of using the managed patron services, there may be additional panes. Pane, P-A-N-E, of course, not P-A-I-N. Nothing hurts here. It's just like window panes. So the reason I say there can be multiple panes is because now I'm looking at a list view. I have all of the loans here. If I go to returns, I've got all of the returns. They're in a list. However, we could switch here, and we'll get to this later on, but I could switch on the top right. I'm clicking switch to split screen view. So now I'm in split screen view. You've probably seen a screen that looks somewhat like this if you've been following the other developments we've been doing. By the way, when we show the old title search coming up, you'll see this as well. This also exists, for example, in the managed sets, the analytics objects. So there's a lot of places where we've got the list and then the split view. Here, by the way, we've also got the table view, which is very nice. But we'll show that later. The reason I'm mentioning this now is because we're going to focus on the navigation pane. The navigation pane is always all the way here on the left. So in some senses, right now, it's the first of 3 panes. And if we're in the list view, then it's the first of 2 panes. So now we're in the navigation pane. When we're working in the navigation pane and we want to finish, we can click Done. And we're out. So that's how we get out of there. Because this is sensitive information that's displaying here, and it could be a situation, for example, where someone, a staff user, is viewing loans of a patron, gets up to make a cup of coffee, sees his or her friend, starts talking. Meanwhile, the page is open with personal information. There's a way to have a timeout automatic here. So it won't remain open all of the time that a staff user is not working. That is also not something new. It existed previously, but I'm going to point it out anyway because it relates to this new Managed Patron Services page. So if we come to configuration, I'm just pointing out the timeout of this. If we come to configuration and we come to fulfillment, general other settings, we have a timeout. By the way, you may have noticed in these code tables that when there's a parameter, you can search up here. I'm just going to put the word timeout, enter. So we have patron services timeout minutes. So this means after 2 minutes, if nobody touches the keyboard or does any activity, could be the mouse as well. If the user doesn't do any activity, after 2 minutes, it's going to time out. Not a new feature, but pointing it out because it's an important feature, and in all of our designs, we take privacy very seriously. So let's head back here now to the Managed Patron Services. So we're focusing now on the navigation pane. We said we have this done button, which also existed in the old UI. It was on the top right, you may recall. Then we have a few other things. Let's start looking at what we've got here. So we have a link to the patron name here. If we click this, it opens what's called the quick user management. Doesn't include all fields. For example, I can't see here the fines and fees. I could update the address, but I don't see everything here. We're going to see what I mean by everything in a moment. So I can update here. For example, I'm going to change something here. What do we got here? First name, last name, middle name. I'll give a middle name here, for example. So I'm able to update directly from here. Now this is a sliding panel. You can see it opened right up. And if I click the X, it closes. First, I'll say update user. So again, I clicked the name. This is a sliding panel. Opens right up. The importance of a sliding panel is I'm not losing the context of where I am. So I was able to update the user, and I'm still right where I was. It's not clicking a link and then I need to go back and then figure out where I was. I'm still in the navigation pane. I'm still focused on loans. In addition to entering the quick user management directly from this Managed Patron Services, we can also do it from here. These 3 dots is referred to as the action items. All throughout Alma, we've got these 3 dots. So here, instead of the quick user management, we can also go to the full user details. So if I click full user details, now I have everything. For example, here I have fines and fees, which I didn't have in the quick user management a moment ago. And I also have statistics. I've got everything here. Identifiers, history, contact information, etc. And here also I can do whatever kind of changes I want. I will, for example, add another statistic here, just so I can make some kind of change. I'll add a statistic. Now she's already got category, type, discipline, and country of origin. I will give her a local or foreign, and I'll say foreign students, and add and close. So I've added a statistical category. The main point here is I've done an update to the user details. Save, and I'm right back where I was before because that was a sliding panel that opened up. and I don't lose the context of where I am. So that's editing the user from within the Manage Patron Services page with no need to go out and come back in. The action items also include, I can send the activity report, the request report, return receipt, and loan receipt. Existed previously, I'm just showing where it is right now. Then we can toggle here between the loans, the returns, the requests. Let's get a user also who has requests. I've got all different kinds of examples here. So I'll retrieve a random user here. And if I come in here, for example, override. So this one has loans, no returns, and does have requests. So we can toggle through the different types right here. This user also, I'm going into the next section now, has an accrued fine of 40 euro. Accrued, that's the fine that's continuously increasing for an overdue item. The woman of the French salons we can see here is overdue and has the 40 fine. We can see it here. Active balance of 0, 40 euro accrued fine. If I were to come back to my other user, let's say done with this user, retrieve my other user, so here we don't have accrued fines, we have an active balance. And we can pay from here. The pay button appears like in the old user interface, provided that the corresponding circulation desk is supporting payments. But we won't get into that too far now. So from here I can pay. I've also got system notes. The system notes are notes which are generated by Alma. So the system note here is user has 2 overdue items in this library. The reason that appears is, like the note states, it's because the user has 2 overdue items. Then we have a section on user notes, manage notes. Here, I could add a note, for example. These are notes manually added by the staff. I'm going to say add note. And I'll make the note, I'll say notified the staff that she will be changing addresses in the coming month. Okay, so I'm just adding a note here. The note will be of type address. And I will say it's user viewable, add and close. So now I have a user note here. And I have a system note, which is generated by the system. Manage notes brings me right back to the user details, already to the notes tab. The order of these sections can be changed by the staff user. For example, if this staff user is always looking at the user notes is very important. You see here, we can drag it right up. So we can drag and drop these to change the order of whatever we'd like. There's another method which I'm just going to point out, but not actually do, but point out so you know it exists, that can also be changed up here. I'm on the top right via the customize. And if I click customize, you see here, I can also make some of the customizations. You see there's something here called sections customizations, for example. So here too, I could change the order, loan information, item information, notes, etc. I can play around here. I'm going to move notes right up there and apply. Now that can be changed in several ways. That's changing around other parts of the system here. It can also be changed on the level of the whole institution by the administrator, by a user who has the role of fulfillment administrator. And that's explained here. Customization will change the out-of-box configuration for all users. So instead of the administrator needing to go into a table behind the scenes, he or she can just come and do it right from here. I'm going to reset everything to default because we're going to get to some things later. Now, note also, I'm going to take another user because we can also change not only the order of what's appearing here in the navigation pane, we can also change what appears in each part of the navigation pane. So for example, let me take this user. So this user here, if we come to the contact information, has an email address. And when I retrieve this patron, let's go edit and let's go to manage fulfillment activities. I don't see here, override. I don't see here the email anywhere. I see the user group, the system notes, but I could change that as well. I could come to fulfillment, excuse me, configuration fulfillment, and we have here patron services user card fields. I'm in the patron configuration section. I know there's a lot of information I'm showing. It's all on that 91 slide PowerPoint. So if I come here to the patron services user card fields, I can control here what fields do and do not appear. For example, I'm going to say I do want the email to appear. Save. Now, if we come back and I say fulfillment, manage patron services, and I were to take that same patron for whom a moment ago we did not see the email, and what happened there, Baruch?
I think you got to refresh. Yeah.
Okay. Let's even sign out, sign in there just to be sure. I think that's it. I think it's the sign out, sign in. Okay, we take that patron again, manage patron services, and take that same user, or any user who has an email for that matter. Override. Beautiful. There it is. It's never an Alma error. When something's not working, it's a human error. And that was the case here. Okay, that's the basics of what I want to show on the navigation pane. Before I move on, I'm going to stop sharing for one moment and I'm going to check the chat just to see if there's anything we want to talk about. So let's see. Somebody asks here, the change you show now in configuration will be permanent or specific to this user? That will be per user. No, that's everybody. That's when we go into the configuration. Let me clarify the two places because you wrote that at 8:23. Okay, so you're referring to the last one I did. I'm going to share again. Changes which are done in configuration, fulfillment, when I did here to the fulfillment, manage patron services user card fields, that's for everybody. And only someone with the relevant roles can get here in the first place. That will affect every user. On the other hand, when we came in through fulfillment and manage patron services and we retrieved a patron, let's try a different patron. Interesting. Everything was so fast. Okay. When I moved these up and down, that's just for my user. So when I come into the configuration menu, that's for everybody. When I individually moved these up and down, that's only for my user. Okay, let's see if there's anything else in the chat before we go on here. So that was one question. Okay. Okay, that's it. I don't see any other questions here. So let's move on now. So that was accessing the new managed patron services. We saw that there were two ways: from the user card, clicking manage fulfillment activities directly from fulfillment managed patron services. Then we looked at the navigation pane. Now we're going to focus on the list view and the split screen view. So right now I'm looking at the list view. And as the name suggests, it's a list. We can switch between. Okay, everybody hears me. Somehow I got onto mute by clicking the button wrong. Okay, so now if I'm going to the split screen, I'm switching between the full view, the list view and the split view. There's a few ways to do that, and note that what I'm showing now may differ depending on the resolution of your screen, and I will point that out in a moment also. So I'm going to take one record. Let's take, for example, this one here. Women's Movements in 20th Century Taiwan by Doris T. Chang. This number 4. If I double click that, it opens in full view. This is full view. It's taking the whole screen. I'm going to close that. If I click here on the top right and I say switch to split screen view, it's now in split screen where I have details on the right and less details on the left, but able to see many entries or entities. And I can come back to the full view by clicking here where it says open page full view. I'm going to get out of here by clicking either the X on the top right, which will close it, or I'm going to go back to full view. I can get out of the full view from here. I'm on the left now. That's called a chevron, those two arrows there. So if I click there, return to split view, I'm back to split view. Now, for example, if I was on a small laptop or something, and I'm playing around with or a large screen, you see now I don't see the sections here. I changed my resolution. I just did Control Plus on my keyboard. So now it says sections here instead of showing me the names of the sections. I'm going to decrease my resolution now. Now you see it says summary, loan information, item information, notes. And now I'm going to increase the resolution. Now it says sections, and in order to see the sections, I need to click it and it opens up in a panel. So depending on your resolution, you may see different things on your screen. So if you don't see anything exactly like the video of this recording or what I'm showing now or the PowerPoint, it could be your resolution. I know, for example, if I work on a laptop or I'm now on a large screen in my office, I see different. And that's all throughout the UI, and that's on purpose. It's responsive is the technical name. It's responsive to the resolution of the user. And it prevents the need to start using a scroll bar all the time. Everything is still there. It's just you need to do something different to see it. It's hidden. Okay, I'm going to make my resolution a little different now. I'm a little more typical here. Okay, let's move on. So within the list view here, you can see we have what's called badges. You will note these also from previous sessions. For example, those which are overdue have the overdue badge on them. I'm going to go back into the list view by closing this right pane. And so all of those that are overdue have a badge. All of those that have notes have a note that there's a note. And if I click that, I can view the note. It'll open up in split editor mode straight to the section of the notes. I'm going to close that. If I hit request, here's one with a request. If we come to the requests, it automatically opens the request view, and I see the queue and I see the request. Again, it opened up in a sliding panel, so I'm able to see the requests without again losing my context. Like at the beginning when I showed that it opens a user card and I don't need to start doing back and all kinds of stuff, I can just close it here with the X. I'm right back where I started. That's the sliding panel. We've got the overdue tab here. If I click the overdue or anywhere on any of these, it opens in the split editor mode, and then I can start seeing the details in the right pane. This list view here, we can also view as a table. Now note right now, I'm seeing 5 entities here in the list view. There are 7. If I scroll down, I see 2 more. I also know there's 7 because it says on top loans 1 through 7 of 7. If I switch now to table view, I have my mouse here on the top right where there's a little icon of a table. I'm clicking switch table view. Now I'm in table view, and I see all 7 of them on one screen. The table view is really a UI feat, F-E-A-T, not feet, F-E-E-T. We've managed to put all of the same information on the screen, but showing more entities more information per entity. We have everything here in the table view that we also have here except for the picture. The picture is the only thing here that we don't have in the table view. And I could actually even display more here if I start dragging these. This is a table that we can play around with here. I could say, for example, that I actually want the loan status to appear right after the barcode. And I can drag that. I can just take this, oops, sorry about that. Take this loan status, just drag it wherever I want. And this is per user. So now I've got loan status here right after the title. If I move it here, now it's after the barcode. This change is per user. I did not just change that for everybody. Every user can do that on his or her own. We can also sort here. I can sort, for example, by title by clicking here. When I'm in table, I can do this. Sort by loan date. Maybe I want the oldest loans on top. We can also sort here different ways. Now notice also, I'm going to sort here by title. And it automatically changed the top of the table. If I sort now by due date, watch, it's going to change here automatically. I'll click due date. I sorted it by clicking the table header, and it changed also here where it says sort by. So everything is working in conjunction. Here, again, we've got the table customization. I'm in user customization, table customization. So there's more fields I can have added here. For example, right now on the screen, I don't have the author. If I click here, author, apply, I have the author now. And then I can remove the author. So and that is per user. What I just did there is per user, unless I was the administrator and I did it here in the institution customization. Only someone with administrator roles will have this. I'm going to remove now that author, so I'm going to come back to table customization, remove the author. I can also change the order here. I'm going to put the due date right after the title. Maybe I'll even put the due date at the beginning, just for the fun, as they say, and apply. Okay, let's go back to the list view, not the table view. So I'm going to switch here to list view.
Yo, just a quick
Yep,
issue.
sure.
When you're saying that if you change something in the configuration table or something,
Yep.
that it's saved for the Alma user, but it applies for every patron. You're not just changing it for a specific patron for Alicia. It would be changed for everyone, but just for this Alma staff user.
The logged in staff user. Yes. Okay, so I will say that again. When we make a change here in the user customization, it will change for me as a logged in user for any patron who I view. Here, it will change for every staff user for every user they view.
Exactly.
Okay, let's move on. So we talked about the sort. These badges are are system defined. Each of these badges, it automatically appears. The badges do not get added by the staff user. The notes get added by the staff user. For example, here, this one, City Woman, Contemporary Taiwan Woman Writers. If I were to take this one here, I'm going to click these three dots and claim this as returned or delete the loan, change the due date. Anything I do here which I'll change the due date to tomorrow. Anything which could possibly cause a change to this record, for example, I'm going to add a note, will automatically get added. I double clicked it. This one here, notice it doesn't have a badge, it doesn't have a note, doesn't have requests, nothing. If I double click this, I'm in full view. I could get into split view if my resolution was low enough. I'm going to add a note here. I'll say add note on the bottom. Let's say, patron Alicia Chen suggested we purchase more copies of this item. Okay, just to have some kind of a note here. Save. So now there's a note here, and I will go back to the list view. So the note automatically gets added here. So the badges, such as the overdue here, automatically get added. The notes, the requests will get added when there is a request on this. I'm going to come along and make a request on this one here just to see what's going to happen here. I'm going to come into physical items and take that barcode, request for a physical item request from another patron. Save. She's got her maximum. Okay, we'll take someone else. Okay, so now if we come back here to our patron, manage patron services. I'm answering this because I'm noting this because I saw a question came in about the badges and notes. And now it's got a request. Automatically, the request here was added. So that's the badges and the notes. Let me take another patron here, fulfillment managed patron services. Override. Okay, so these have the overdue and a badge of fines. If something already has accrued fines on it, there'll be a badge for the fines. These can also be filtered. We can say here that we want either all loans or loans only of this session. If I say only of this session, now I don't see anything because I haven't loaned anything yet to this user. I will loan something. This is called the pickup. I'm going to click the pickup. The pickup means, for example, I have the item in my hand, I'm ready to loan it, but it doesn't have a barcode on it. So I might need to scan it. For example, I will search for something here. pretending I don't have the barcode on the item and I want to scan it. And I will take, here's one item in place. Great. We'll take Academic Library and Development Administration in Taipei. Select. So now this is going to be loaned. The barcode came in. We click OK. Override that. She's too many loans, but we override. So now I see that she has 4 loans, but on my screen here I see 1. Because on the screen I'm in the main pane, I'm filtering by this session, and I only loaned 1 this session, but I see clearly on the left that this user has 4 loans and 1 request. And if I were to come here and say I want all, now I see all 4. Somebody asked earlier about seeing the returns. By the way, here you can see I also see the requests. I'm going to come back to our other user just so we can play around a minute with the returns. So let's come back to Alicia. And here we can see I'm already in filter by all, which is where I left it last time. It's sticky and remembered. And I also see that there are 6 returns. Now, if I take one of these loans, I will take City Woman Contemporary Taiwan Writers, and I will take this barcode. And let's say I return this. And let's say I loan it. I know this might not be a typical situation, but in order to show how these numbers are changing, I'm going to return it again. See, it went up to 8. Loans came down to 6. Watch this. I'm at returns 8, loans 6. I loan it again. Loans came up to 7. Returns is still at 8. When I return this, returns is going to go up to 9, loans is going to go down to 6. So I do see the history of the returns. However, if institutions are running the anonymization, there's a loan anonymization, which many institutions run, which removes personal details from loans. It's primarily for the purposes of not being able to view those details in analytics. However, it also affects certain places in ALMA. The returns will be deleted from here as well. So if City Woman were to get anonymized, it would no longer appear here. So I see, for example, here are 2 returns of City Woman from today. 17 due date 20, return date 17/7. You can see here. So I see the history of the loans there. I'm going to stop for a moment and see the chat and see what's going on here. Are the labels all system defined, or can we also define our own? If so, how? Okay, so we answered that one. The labels are system defined. We saw one for overdue. We saw one for has fines. And the notes, you can add your own note. Will we be able to track the history of which user has returned which book? You can see on the history of the patron, I'm going to share again. On the history of the patron, you can see all of his or her returns. That's on the patron level. What hasn't changed and always existed is if you are in an item, and this depends also on your anonymization, but within the item, in the physical item editor, in the history tab, there is a section here on fulfillment activities, and you can see who did what and when. Again, for non-anonymized. For example, look at the one from 2020. I don't know who loaned it because it's been anonymized already. Maybe my anonymized job is working on items returned a week earlier, perhaps, because I see one's done today. One's done today, I still see. Ones done in 2020 have already been anonymized, and I don't know who the borrower is. Okay, so that's the two ways you can see that. Let me go back and see the chat if there's anything else. Will the labels be available in analytics? No, the labels won't be available in analytics, and the labels are, there's really no reason to have those in analytics because, for example, if it says overdue, you have an analytics a way to get overdue. If it has a fine, you have an analytics a way to get items that have a fine. So no, the labels are not in analytics, nor do I see a use case for that. How can I see the new Alma interface that shows the split screen on the right side? Do I need to change anything in the configuration? Okay, you plural being institutions who are not early adopters will not see what I am showing right now. Baruch, if someone wants to be an early adopter or someone wants to see this, how would you recommend them going about doing this if they don't want to wait until August?
Uh, well, right now the list is closed to early adopters. So whoever is not in our list needs to wait until November to start.
November. Okay.
Yes.
In November, everyone will see it.
Hmm.
Okay. Looks like I got everything either by answering now or through what I did before. Okay, so let's go on. I will share and let's move on and talk about the sections. So one of the features of this new UI, not only in the managed patron services, but also in the managed sets, in the holdings record search, we're going to see in the all titles search soon, I think next week or sometime soon, is sections. So if I come back now, let's say fulfillment, managed patron services, retrieve a random patron. Okay. So let's take, for example, one of these, woman of the French salons. Rather than needing to scroll through here, let's even view this in split editor mode. So I'm going to close this split editor. Okay. So instead of needing to scroll through here, let's give this 2 notes. Just so I want to give it something so we have a little more activities here. So I'm going to say patron spilled coffee on the title page. Okay. Just so I have a note here, I want some more text here. Okay, so you see I got a scroll bar here. I can also move through, instead of using the scroll bar, I can move through using the tabs, the sections. So when I click on a section, for example, item information, it turns yellow and is focused. It moved up a bit. I'm going to change just so I got a slightly different resolution here so we can see this a little more prevalently. So now I've got a scroll bar here. See, so now I need to move through the scroll bar. And instead of using the scroll bar, I can say item information. It brings that right into focus and first makes it yellow. So if I'm in the summary and I want to go right to the notes, I could scroll down to the notes. Or if I click notes, it brings it up. And when I first get to a section, excuse me, it makes that section yellow highlight, so I know that's the section I got to. So I'm going to click loan information, and we'll see that that loan information, it starts out yellow, and then it automatically fades away into gray. I'll make this larger now. We also saw before that this section's information could collapse. When I say collapse, it will mean I'll need to click something in order to see it. So when I say Control Plus, I'm just increasing, I increased my resolution now. So now the sections is collapsed. And if I want to get to those sections, if I click it, you'll see it'll open, and then I can close it here. That's responsive to the resolution of the user. I'm going to make that a little more typical. I don't want to say normal. There's no normal here, whatever someone likes. A little more typical. Let's move now back to the patron who has more on loan. So I will say fulfillment, manage patron services, and back to Alicia. Okay, so another feature we've got is the bulk actions. So here, let's say I'm in the list view and I want to renew everything. Now, there might be things which can't be renewed, but I'm going to try to renew everything. So I could click Renew All. I could select all here, or I could select just a couple of them. I'm selecting 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I could say Renew Selected. I'm in the top right here. This is a bulk action where I'm able to choose particular entities and then perform an action on those entities. Okay, so it says action could not be completed on 4 of the 4 selected items. So it tells me what's been renewed, what hasn't been renewed. And here it says the item policy is no renewals. On all of these, the item policy is no renewals. I'm going to try to renew this one. Couldn't renew that one. Its item policy is no renewals, and the renew period has exceeded. Here I see that this one's been recalled. So for sure I can't renew it. So that's, I could change the due date on some of them. I'm going to take this one here and this one here and this one here. So this is a normal one. This is normal. This has been recalled. And now I'm going to do a global change of change due date. So we'll say change due date. And I'm going to make the due date be Friday. Friday at 6:13 a.m. Let's say that. Change due date. Okay, so now it says action completed on 3 of the selected items. You can see they've got the check mark on them. The due date is now Friday. That's July 19th. It says here 5:13 because that's my server time. This is, I'm working on an environment from Amsterdam. So they're an hour behind. So I put in 6:13, we got 5:13. And I see that those are renewed because I've got here a little checkbox there. This entire list also, we can export. If I click here, export to Excel, only the first 100,000 records are exported. So if you have a patron who has 100,001 records, you'll need to do this twice. But here we can export. I would recommend doing this via analytics anyway if you had 100,000. And let's say all fields instead of just current fields. So here it is. It exports the loan list, and I've got it here. So that gives a printout. You can see I've got a lot of fields here. All fields, not just the ones that are displaying. For example, I've got author, which we saw before was an option to display. I'm going to go to the table view just for the fun here. Due date, title, barcode. I'm going to export from here. All fields. Here it is. And again, so you see I have author here, title, author, barcode, loan date, last renew date. I don't have author displaying here, but I chose all fields. Okay, we have 4 minutes left. I want to make sure we get all the questions, so I'm going to stop for a moment, and I'll leave my screen shared in case I want to come back and I want to check out the chats. How can you be an early adopter for the next release? Is there a fee to be an early adopter? There is no fee to be an early adopter. We have user groups which work on different functionalities in Alma. For example, there's one which works together with our development on the new all title search. There's one that's worked on the new managed patron services. Um, I'm going to take note of your name here. Baruch also, so let's make sure this user here, I don't want to say the name out loud, so we keep everything anonymous here. I know privacy is an important thing, and we will let you know. But thank you for your interest. There is no fee. It's the Igloo and eLuna have groups of users who work with us on various activities. Can we do a bulk change due date action if there is no active overdue loan block on these loans? When we do this global renewal, it renews everything which could possibly be renewed. In other words, if I would be able to do renew here one at a time and it would succeed, then if I say renew all, it would also succeed. It's only not succeeding because there are different blocks on this. We have 3 minutes, so let's go do something here. I'm going to go get a different title. And let's do a little test here of something. I will take the Annals of Library Science, and I will take this, and I will say Manage Patron Services. I'll loan this to a patron. Okay. Due date is today. It must be a 1-day loan. Okay, so renewal is also not going to do anything because if it's due today, it's not going to be renewed. I'm just going to take one other example. In short, renew all will renew anything which can be renewed. And if not, as we saw, automatically there's a block. I'm going to loan one more item. Fulfillment, manage patron services. And that hasn't changed, by the way. What happens when you do renew all, simply where it's located. Let's loan one more item to this patron. Okay. All right. So again, it can't be renewed because these are overdue, or the due date wouldn't change if it's a 1-day loan. But the renewal is a bulk on all of the items on loan. Okay, let's see. Baruch, are there any other questions there that we didn't answer? Well, hi, someone says, hi, we'll be able to determine how many times this book, well, first of all, let's say item, how many times this item has been renewed in the last renew status.
Yes, you can go into more actions of the record, and then there is an item history, loan history, you see there?
Yep. We can
And
also
that
see this from the
states
physical
the
editor, by
loans
the
for
way.
the renewing of this patron, of this loan.
Great. Thank you, Baruch. Where were you pointing out specifically?
The table, if you try to renew it again and again, then the table will
Oh,
have more
okay, I see.
records.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Okay, someone asked that they joined late and they want to get the recording. The recording of this, as we mentioned at the beginning, the recording will be available in the Alma 2024 Roadmap Webinar Series page, as it is available for all previous ones here. You see the recording column here. So it will be available from this page. It will also be on our YouTube channel, and it will also be on our education and webinars page, as are here all of our previous Alma 2024 Roadmap Webinar Series. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm afraid we're out of time. And we hope to see you next week, if relevant for you next week. Next week is the new network zone configurations. And then in our next session, which will be the new all title search. So thanks again and have a nice day. Thank you, Baruch. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.